Hi guys, That Song Review Guy here, and yes, it's that time of year again. It's Christmas. And for those of you who've been around for a little while, you would know that last December I released a video detailing what I thought were the 10 worst songs that were #1 hits on every December the 25th, dating back from the very conception of the UK singles chart all the way to the current day. This year I thought that it was only fitting that I would create that video sequel and show that in spite of the worst Christmas #1s of history, there have been some real gems that cannot go unacknowledged. As was the last video, all the songs you see here are listed chronologically and are not ranked from 10 to 1. So, now that that's been made clear, on with the list. First, dating back to 1957, is Mary's Boy Child by Harry Belafonte. There were two versions of this track that were #1 hits that I could have chosen from, the second being the Bohemian version that went to #1 in 1978. But ultimately I decided to go for the earliest recorded version, courtesy of the American singer-songwriter, actor and social activist Harry Belafonte. This was only one of 4 top 10 singles for Harry, and his one and only #1 hit single, and the first track in UK singles charts history to break the 1 million sales barrier. The reasons I chose this one over the updated dance version are many. One, I find the vocal performance here to be much warmer, more understated and simply beautiful. There's a certain delicacy and gentleness to Belafonte's delivery that it wraps you up in this warm feeling, and it's highly undeniable. Two, it's Harry on his own. Usually you have the backing of an overbearing choir in the background in order to give a track some added oomph, but surprisingly, this is a case of less is more, and Harry does terrifically in carrying the song all on his own. Third, the instrumentation is pitched perfectly. You've got the sweetness of the strings, hints of guitar strings in intermittent areas along with piano, and a sprinkling of harp as well. The woodwind instruments add another dimension that adds to the delicate nature of this track, and all of the instruments don't overbear one another, nor do they fight each other in order to get some of the airtime. It's produced terrifically. And fourth, this style of song simply works better when it's underplayed and trounces the Bohemian version any day of the week. Next, from 1961, is Moon River by Danny Williams. Much like Mary's Boy Child, there are a myriad of different versions of this track that you could argue for ages over which version of this track is the best, but I'll end the argument right now. Audrey Hepburn's version is the best. So now that that argument is out of the way, onto this, the version from the South African-born Danny Williams, born January 7th, 1942 and died December 6th, 2005, and only ever had 2 top 10 singles in the UK, this being his most commercially successful hit. Backed by harmonising vocalists, lowly picked guitar strings and an orchestra of strings, Danny's version, although not as beautiful or as subtle or understated as Hepburn's, is still a great cover version. His delivery, like Belafonte's, has a warm and rich aura emanating that he in turn gives the song his own brand and identity. Plus, his delivery has this rather beautiful shimmer and slight shake that adds some real emotion to the track, especially when you reach the very end of the song, reaching up into a slightly higher register and ending on that definitive note. It's a really stunning track and definitely worth recognition as one of the better cover versions. Next, from 1974, is Lonely This Christmas by Mud. You know, when going back and listening to much older music, especially during the 60s and 70s, you'd be amazed how many people imitated Elvis Presley in terms of his vocal delivery. The likes of Roy Orbison, Buddy Holly and Ronnie McDowell, just to name a few. And another person that could be added to that list would be Les Gray, the lead singer of the British glam rock group Mud. Word of warning, if you've just gone through a terrible breakup this Christmas time, do not under any circumstances listen to this track because it will absolutely tip you over the edge. A song where the premise is that our protagonist has broken up with his lover and faces the prospect of spending Christmas all alone. This is one heartbreakingly sad and melancholic track. The instrumentation is just as wistful. The piano melody adds to the depressive lyrics, the ascending and descending bass line coupled with the subtle electric guitar is understated and not overwhelming, and the shimmer of the background vocal harmonies are well delivered as well. And special commendations go for the creation of a track in a 3/4 time signature, which is highly unusual for a commercial hit song. Next, from 1975, is Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. What more is there to be said? One of, if not the greatest rock band of all time, fronted by one of the greatest showmen and performers ever in the form of Freddie Mercury. They've got the hits, they've got the accolades, they've got the worldwide recognition, they've got pretty much everything you could ask for in a band and more. And they're responsible for this. Arguably their most recognised song they've ever done, one of the greatest #1 hit songs of all time, an absolute masterful creation of art that may be over 40 years old, but is now and forever will be timeless. How exactly are you supposed to talk about a 6-minute long piece of musical theatrics that, for its time, was the most expensive song to record, and even to this day no one knows exactly how much it costed to create that song? It breaks all convention, it follows no real songwriting pattern that you could find in Songwriting 101. The music is grandiose, the vocal performances are theatrical as all hell, wild and manic. It's part ballad, part opera, part rock song, part a cappella, part pop. It's so many different parts combined into one that really you just have to immerse yourself into the song and embrace the downright absurdity and madness that is Bohemian Rhapsody. There, I did my best. It's simply beyond words. Next, from 1976, is When a Child is Born by Johnny Mathis. As is a common occurrence with songs on this list, many have been covered by a slew of artists over the years, and this one is no different. And again, depending on who you ask, will often lead to conflicting opinions as to whose version is the best. Many will gift a certain artist's version as the definitive version, and for Johnny Mathis, his take on When a Child is Born is given that accolade, and I honestly couldn't think of anyone better to be gifted that title. To be honest, this one goes back to my childhood. I grew up listening to this song religiously throughout the Christmas period, and I still do during this time of year. It's just a fantastically produced track, and every element is on point, with lyrics that are essentially a hint at the world coming together as one via the unity of the birth of a child. It's brought together with a great orchestral string arrangement, a soft drum piece, a sprinkling of electric guitar that becomes more prominent towards the end of the song, a woodwind section that doesn't overpower the other instruments, and it's made all the more beautiful through Mathis's understated and delicate delivery, which is further complemented by the harmonising vocalists. I can't pick anything out of this track that I don't like. It really is that great of a song. Next, from 1979, is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 by Pink Floyd. Another common occurrence that you're bound to have towards some of these tracks is the surprise reaction when you learn of some of the tracks that were #1 at Christmas. As per my list last year, we've had some real shockers, and then to counteract those terrible tracks, you've got classics such as this one, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 by the London-based rock band whose career spanned over 30 years, Pink Floyd. Easily the most simplistic of all the songs on this list in terms of its lyrics, this is perhaps one of the best songs where you can have the most simplistic of lyrics, but when backed by fantastic instrumentation, it works on every level, and even when taken out of the album's context, it still stands heads and shoulders above everything else. A track about going against the establishment, taking the form of students revolting against their schoolmasters. The track gains its iconic status with a helping hand from a strong bass riff, a distinctive electric guitar melody that's clean and crisp in both the verses and the outro, and going hand in hand with the drum piece that gives the track a danceable quality as well. It's a simply infectious and glorious song that deserves all the accolade. Part of Rolling Stone's greatest 500 songs of all time, and sold over 4 million copies worldwide. Yeah, it ain't hard to see why. Next, from 1986, is Reet, Petite by Jackie Wilson. Proof that long after its original conception that any song can become a smash hit track, Jackie Wilson's Reet, Petite, originally released in 1957, was reissued in 1986 and subsequently went on to become a #1 hit that year, selling over 700,000 copies, and held the record for the longest time between a song's debut on the chart and it reaching #1, only for it to be broken almost 2 decades later by Tony Christie's Is This the Way to Amarillo. For me, it's the little things about this track that really warm the heart, whether it's the bouncy ascending and descending bass line, the soft rattling of the drum, the staccato stabs from the brass instrumentation, the tremolo vocal delivery of the word Reet, the overall joyous and infectious delivery of the vocals as a whole. When you combine all of those elements, it makes this song so addictive and enjoyable, and what results is this huge ball of overwhelming pleasure that is this song. I defy anyone out there to listen to this song and not crack the faintest of smiles. Even someone with a heart as black as mine can find all the enjoyment this song encapsulates. Next, from 1990, is Saviour's Day by Sir Cliff Richard. Sounds familiar to you? Well, it should. I covered this song only a few weeks ago back on my last Charts of the Past video, and to be honest, I'll only be retreading old ground and bringing up the same items again. So if you want to hear my thoughts on this track, check out the video in the link below. Next, and the penultimate song on this track, is Stay Another Day by East 17 from 1994. The last real Christmas song to appear on this list, and one that really isn't a Christmas song when all things are considered. This track comes courtesy of the ongoing British boy band of the early 90s, E17. Originally consisting of Tony Mortimer, Brian Harvey, John Hendry and Terry Caldwell, this was the group's one and only #1 hit and ended up being the third most successful song of the year, despite being released only 5 weeks before the end of the year. But you might be asking yourself, that song review guy, why is this considered a Christmas song? Well, who am I kidding? No one out there is asking that question, but since I brought it up, I might as well answer it. It's the church bells. Yep, that's it. Deliberately designed to have the church bells in order to tie in with the Christmas market, it's actually a really charming and heartwarming love song. Most noted for its lack of drums, minus the timpanis that come in after the second verse. The instrumentation is rather grandiose. The strings are luscious, the piano is magnificent, and the timpani drums and church bells are large and pack a huge punch, and the vocal arrangements throughout are meticulous and placed carefully and creatively, and result in not only a great pop song, but a great song in general. And last but by no means least, from 2009, Killing in the Name by Rage Against the Machine. This right here came at a time that the charts really needed something different to halt the dredge that was the X Factor #1 haul. Released in 1992, this track was a protest against the X Factor machine to stop that year's winner Joe McElderry from taking the top spot at Christmas. And it worked. It sold over 500,000 copies that year and was entered in the Guinness Book of World Records for the fastest selling digital track in the UK. Inspired by the beating received by Rodney King at the hands of officers of the LA Police Department, the lyrics heavily implicate a link between said officers and members of the supreme far-right group, the KKK, both invoking a sense of fear in order to gain control over those they deem beneath them. And with such strong imagery, it's backed by instrumentation that's just as strong, with heavy guitar riffs, strong melodies, a deep growling bass line and short, sharp drum deliveries, and a mix between an aggressive and understated vocal delivery. It was definitely one of the most unexpected tracks to become #1 at Christmas. But as previously mentioned, considering some of the crap that did go to #1 during this time of year, it's one I welcome with open arms. And there you go. Those, in my opinion, are the top 10 best #1 hits at Christmas. What do you guys think? Have you heard these songs? Do you like these songs? Do you agree with my opinions? Do you disagree with them? However you feel, leave your opinions in the comment section below. As I always say, I welcome all comments, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But until next time, I'm That Song Review Guy. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and take care.